I don't think anybody needs a prep for the story. This was recorded live on stage at the Sofia Theatre. When you see a live performance of a solo performer, there is only one character in the story, and that is the character that's standing before you. I might tell you 10 different characters. I might describe somebody, but really there's only one character, and that's the person standing in front of you. Because the first assumption the audience has is a middle-aged white guy just walked up to a microphone. And I'm a middle-aged white guy. And so I own that. Or I don't own it, or I flip it on its head. But I really do think a lot about the difference between an audio story and a story told live in front of people, because they are different mediums for sure.
Hello, and welcome to Prompt, a podcast that explores the stories behind the stories. My name is Amy B., and I'm a writer and one of the creators of In a Nutshell, a monthly storytelling show in Sacramento, California. My co-creators are the world-class comedian Keith Lowell Jensen and the professor of ska, music journalist Aaron Carnes. Together, we get to hear all kinds of great stories at our show, and we want you to hear them too. So every episode, we'll play you a true personal story told at one of our shows, and then we'll talk to the storyteller to not only find out more about the person behind the story, but also discover why they tell the stories they tell. And also, how the hell would we go about doing what they do if we all wanted to turn a piece of our lives into a story? The first story we wanted to share with you is from JP Frary, who you just heard at the top of this episode explaining what, to him, makes oral storytelling unique. Now, JP told his story at our premiere show, where our prompt for the evening was breaking the ice. Before we give it a listen, it's interesting to note that this story was handpicked by Keith, who was quite taken with it, and had become a huge fan of JP's seemingly omnipotent storytelling skills. Here's what Keith had to say about it. Keith, you were dead set on having JP at our first show. It was almost like if we didn't have JP, the show wasn't going to happen. That's how serious you were about it.
So, this is going to sound hyperbolic, but I'm a huge fan. I can't think of a storyteller that I would rather listen to.
Wow.
Than JP. I mean it. From the moment I saw him, I went home and told my wife, I saw this guy last night. I was just blown away. And he's been close to that good, and sometimes even better every time I've seen him since. He's phenomenal, and I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
Which it's funny that he's very approachable, down to earth. He's just jumped right in to be a part of everything we're doing.
Yeah, and he has
friendly.
Lots of opinions on story and how to tell a good story.
What's funny is I'm a huge fan of his as a storyteller. Also 100% willing to disregard his advice. So I guess I have a healthy ego.
Well, he is a very take it or leave it kind of person, so I think he's okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Aaron.
I'm Aaron.
Yes, Aaron, our producer, Aaron. So Aaron, I know it wasn't ska, but did you enjoy JP's story?
Oh, of course. I loved his story. There's nothing better than a good story about fishing in Alaska.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have any questions for me?
Oh, I got one. Who tells a better story, JP or Keith?
Oh. Let's just go listen to the story.
You're a damn dirty dog.
I turned 21 in the hold of a boat in the middle of the Bering Sea. I'd gone to Alaska to try to earn money for college. I was on the 6 or 7 year plan, and I was failing, and somebody had told me you could make a lot of money in Alaska. This was the 80s. This was before television shows and things. I got a job right off a dock in Dutch Harbor on a boat. And everybody that worked on the boat was at least 20 years older than me, some of them 30. And they had all worked on that boat for 20 years. So they were super tight. They all knew each other's families. This was their thing, right? And I knew why they hired me. I was the young kid. I was going to do all the crappy jobs that nobody wanted to do. I cut bait for hours. And that's not as attractive as it sounds. I would have to climb on top of gear in the middle of a rolling sea and make sure it was tied down. And none of them did that. If there was something that had to be scrubbed or cleaned, I did it. If there was ice to be knocked off of something, I did that. And most of the time, that didn't bother me. I'm not afraid of hard work. I never have been. But nobody talked to me. I don't think anybody knew my name. They would say, kid, you have to do this. Kid, you have to do that. And a lot of the time, when you're not fishing, there's not a lot to do. So they hung out and played cards. They hung out and chatted while I worked. And I really started to feel like nobody cared if I lived or died. And I was told to clean fish parts out of this water pump that was in the hold of the boat. So like the very bottom part of the boat. And I'm knee deep in fish parts, cleaning this thing. And it's the 4th of July. And I can hear them on deck shooting fireworks off. And they're drinking beer and having a barbecue. And I was born on the 4th of July. And I was in the hold of that boat just going, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm so lonely. I feel ignored, undervalued, all the things that, and I'm, I just turned 21 in the hold of a boat, and they're having beer, and I don't get to have one, and I just decide I'm going to quit. That's what I'm going to do. When the boat gets back into port, I will try to find another job in Alaska, and I feel a little better because I'm like, I'm getting out of here. And we get into Dutch Harbor, and I don't just walk off the boat. I help unload. I help get the fish off. And it takes some time to do that. But the entire time I'm going, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. And we finish, and everybody else, it looks to me like, is going to town. I go back to the bunks, and I pack up all my gear. And I come off the boat on the dock, and there's the captain. And he goes, oh, there you are. And I go up to him ready to say, I'm out of here. And he says, I have your share. And he hands me a stack of $100 bills. Now, in Alaska, in the 80s, there were no banks anywhere. There's still no banks anywhere. You didn't get paid in a check because how would you deposit it? How would you know if the check was good? Right? You'd end up with a whole bunch of checks and no money. So it was a cash business. And I had never held $6,000 in cash before in my life. And he handed me the money, and I went, oh, fuck me, I have to get back on this boat. Like, I could pay for a whole year of school with this money. And he looked at me and went, you got to be back in 4 hours because we got to reload for the next run. And I went, I'll see you in 4 hours. And I went to town, and the first thing I did was find a laundromat. Because when you work on a fishing boat, you smell like a fishing boat. So I wanted clean clothes. And then I went to a store just to buy more underwear and more socks. Something my mom told me I should take more of. And then I went to the post office, and I walked in, and I said, hey, do you have anything addressed to JP Frary for general delivery? And the woman goes, it's you. I'm like, yes, it's me. And she goes, no, you're the winner. And I'm like, the winner? And she goes, you have more mail than anybody. And she goes in the back room and comes out with this stack of envelopes. And when she hands it to me, she goes, some people must love you. And I go, I think they do. And I look through them really quick, and I order them in the way that I want to read them, but I have to get back to the boat. So they go in my bag, and I get back to the boat, and one of the guys goes, I thought he was going to quit. And it takes a while to load the boat. We load everything up on the boat, and we take off. Now, it takes about 16 hours to get to where we're going to fish. So once all the stuff is on the boat, everybody else just kind of disappears, goes to their bunks. I still have more chores to do. I have to stow buoys. I have to make sure everything's tied on for this trip. But it's really only an hour of work to do. And I check in the galley, and nobody's in the galley. They're all in their bunks. So I take my bag, and I sit at the table, and I pull out my mail. And the first letter, it's from my sister Annette. She's my older sister. And as soon as I start reading it, I get homesick. There's nothing sweet in it. It's just nuts and bolts of what's going on with the family barbecue, things that are happening in town. She'd taken a job for the summer at a camp for kids, and she fell off a horse and she broke her arm. And she broke the upper part of her arm really badly, and they had to put her in a cast with her arm like this. And the camp wouldn't let her come back. So she got a job at Baskin Robbins scooping ice cream. And she says, I can outscoop anybody there. They're a bunch of idiots. And the thing is, we know the family that owns the Baskin Robbins. And I was like, they hired a one-armed person. But she said every time somebody new comes in, they wave to her until they realize it's a cast, right? And I'm just more and more homesick the more I read this letter. And the last line is, I wanted you to hear it from me first. Ed and I are dating. And when I read that, just instinctively, my fist comes down on the table. Boom! And I go, damn it! And I hear a voice from the bunks go, what was that? Because on a boat at sea, a weird thump is not usually a good thing. And I say, that was me. I got a letter from home, and my sister is dating my best friend. And he goes, oh my God, I would not let my sister date any of my friends. And I go, I know, right? I mean, I know every terrible thing that guy has done. I know every terrible thing she's done. And then another voice from the bunks goes, wait a minute, you got mail? And one by one, these 40 to 50-year-old crusty fishermen come out of the bunks and sit down at the table. And the captain goes, it's a boat rule. You have to read the letter out loud. And I'm like, oh, that's not a rule. And he goes, it's my boat, it's a rule. It's weird. I said, this is really, come on. And one of the guys goes, we don't know any of these people in your letter. Read the letter. So I read the letter from my sister. And when it gets to the thing where she's like this and everybody's waving, they start laughing. And they think it's so funny. And then I read the thing about she's dating my best friend. And everybody has something to say about that. One of the guys, actually, the exact same thing happened to him. His best friend married his sister. And he said it. And I go, well, what happened? And he goes, I don't have a best friend anymore. And I'm like, that's right? I've known him since I was 4. Like, it's wrong that he's dating my sister. And everybody is talking about that. And I realize this is the most conversation we have had since I've been on this boat. And the captain goes, read the next letter. I'm like, no, come on, man. Like, this is weird. And he goes, dude, read the letter. The next letter is from my little sister. My little sister's 5 years younger than me. She's still in high school. We grew up in Mendocino County, and they had just gotten cable TV. I'm not joking. I didn't have cable TV. When I was in high school, it appeared, and MTV descended into this small rural community. And her letter was all about how she didn't want to dress like Pat Benatar or Madonna. And that every girl in school was either Pat Benatar or Madonna. And then she admitted that she was something called a Duranie. That's a fan of Duran Duran. And somehow that was cooler. know how that was cooler? And I'm reading this out loud, and none of these fishermen know these bands. They are like, what's a Pat Benatar? What's a, you know? And then she says, Mom and Dad finally let me get my ears pierced. So I got my hair cut like Nick Rhodes so my ears show off. And they let me get rollerblades. And as I'm reading this, the homesickness is just crushing me. And everybody's laughing like, oh, my kid sister this, you know. And then the last line says, could you please write a letter to Annette and tell her to stop making out with Ed in front of me. And the fishermen are like, oh my God, and they all talk about their kid sister, their kid brother, and how they're always looking out for him. And I feel connected, and I just opened the next letter. I'm like, well, the next letter is from my friend Brian. And the second I start reading it, I realize this might be a mistake, because Brian, I know, is gay, but he is not out. This is the early 80s. This is the early 80s in a rural community, and being out is not a thing you can be there. But he is desperately trying to come out of the closet. And I know this because I left and I moved to San Francisco. And he stayed and went to the local junior college. And his letter is all these not so veiled hints about, I'm coming to San Francisco in the fall. I'm going to enroll in San Francisco State because I need to find a community of people that understand me, that will let me be who I want to be. And as I'm reading this, my first thought is, these rednecks from Alaska aren't going to get the subtext. They're not going to get this, right? And then I'm like, uh-oh. If these rednecks from Alaska get the subtext, some homophobic, like gay bashing stuff is going to come out of them. And I look up, and that is not the case. They are all rooting for him. The captain says, oh man, I've got an uncle who's had a partner for 10 years, and he still doesn't get to come to family holiday dinners because there's so many weird conservative people in my family. And another guy goes, I have a cousin, and we all know she's a lesbian because she's got this weird mullet. But she's not out. Like, we want her to come out so we can, accept this thing, and she's not out, and you can't just push somebody out. And I realized that they were rooting for my friend. It wasn't in their wheelhouse to be open in the world as an ally. We didn't even use the word ally back then. They didn't have the tools for that. But they knew how messed up this culture was. They knew it. Read the next letter. The next letter is from our really close family friend, Linda. And Linda, her husband had died earlier in the year. And it was sudden. They were in their early 40s. He had a heart attack while playing tennis. And they were tight. They didn't have kids. They were just this tight couple that we loved. They come to all our family things. And when he died, you could see this sadness descend on her. And her letter, it was sad, but it was not sad on purpose. She wished me happy birthday. And I said that, and they all said, when was your birthday? And I said, yesterday. And the captain went, oh, you were born on the 4th of July, and we made you clean fish guts. I'm sorry about that. And I was like, no, you're not. And everybody laughed. And I keep reading her letter, and she goes, and they have this elaborate garden. And he terraced the whole backyard so they could have vegetables down low and then flowers here. And he ringed the top of their yard that everybody in town could see with sunflowers that grew high and naked ladies that grew low, those pink perennials that come up. And it's such a beautiful thing. But she says in her letter, she doesn't want to do it anymore. She doesn't want to garden by herself. And that she doesn't really know who she is without him. And I choke up when I read this. And when I look up, there are tears in everybody's eyes. And the captain says, when my dad died, my mom just was so depressed for so long. She kept saying she didn't know who she was without him. And the first mate said, when I was 17, my twin brother was killed in a car accident. And it was like I lost my right arm. Who are you without your right arm? And I didn't know what to say. And nobody knew what to say. Everybody was just looking at the table. So I picked up another letter. This one was from my mom. And right from the jump, it is just her complaining about the deer that eat her plants. What am I going to do? It doesn't matter what I do. I put chicken wire up. Apparently, deer don't care about chicken wire. And I have deer-resistant plants, and they just eat them right down to the ground. And I saw this National Geographic program where wolf urine will repel deers. So I called the zoo, and I asked for a bottle of wolf urine. And apparently, they don't bottle it. And all the fishermen are laughing, and she goes on. She goes, I read a thing in one of the Foxfire books that if you wrap tinsel and human hair around your plants, the deer won't eat them. So it's like a hillbilly Christmas tree. I'm thinking of going out and just peeing around the plants by myself, because how does a deer know what a wolf is? There's no wolves here. And people are laughing so hard, they're crying. Oh, your mom's a riot, your mom's a riot. And I get to the last line, and the last line says, I'm sure you know by now that Ed and Annette are dating. They are very inexperienced. One of them is going to get pregnant. Expect a December wedding. The wedding was in February. Everybody is laughing. And everybody is talking about their moms and their crazy aunt. And this thing is happening where I feel connected to people. And I look down, I have 2 letters left. One of them is from my dad. And my dad and I feel like my dad is a man of few useful words. And so I just put my hand on the letter and slip it under my bag without anybody seeing. And the other letter there, it's from my ex-girlfriend. We'd broken up about 5 months before I went to Alaska. And it was a tough breakup on me. She broke up with me. First time I've ever been dumped. And I got to say this, it's necessary to develop as a human to be dumped, but man, does it hurt. Mm-hmm. And the night before I got on a plane to go to Alaska, she showed up at my door. And she said, I just wanted to wish you well and say goodbye. I know you're going far away. And she spent the night. And we had that kind of sex that you can only have with somebody you want. And you need, and it's tender, and it's also erotic, and it's also like you're almost crying. And that whole flight to Alaska, I was like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Like, was this just nostalgia for her? Like, I was right back to where I was 5 months earlier when she dumped me. I didn't know what it meant. And so when I tear open that letter, the smell of perfume pours out. And I take a whiff and close my eyes. And it's hypnotic. And the guy to my right goes, hand me that envelope. And I hand it to him. And he closes his eyes. It's the most pornographic thing I've ever seen in my life. And he goes to take a second inhale, and the guy next to him grabs it. And they are passing the envelope around, smelling my girlfriend. But her letter it's all about cooking school. She's at this fancy French cooking school, and she wants to be a pastry chef, but they make you take all the beginning classes, and she's in the butchering class. And she talks about disemboweling a duck. And then she spatchcocks a chicken. I didn't know what spatchcock meant, and I was like, that sounds erotic. And then she's talking about how they have to save the pig blood when they butcher the pig because they're going to make sausage later, and they're also saving the casings of the intestine to make the sausage, and it's really detailed, and a guy goes, you have to stop reading that. And I turn and look, and almost everybody is just green. And a couple guys are like, dude, just skip that part. Skip the butchering part. And we cut up fish every day. Like, this is what we do. And they're like, it's not a mammal. It's different. And so I skip to the last paragraph. And she says, I'm so glad that I spent the night with you before you left. I wasn't sure if I'd made a mistake, but I know that I did. I want to get back together. And one of the guys goes, ooh, she might be the one, as he was smelling the... And I go, well, that's it. That's the last of my letters. And the first mate goes, no, dude. I saw you hide a letter. And I was like, well, it's from my dad, man. And my dad and I don't see eye to eye on anything. Like it's complicated, and I want to keep that for myself. And the captain goes, kid, we know everything about you now. Like, read the letter. So I pull it out. It is the thickest of all. And I'm like, what could possibly be in here? And I tear it open and pull it out. And it is not a letter. It is a piece of poster paper all folded up. And when I unfold it, it is all stick figure drawings that my dad has drawn of what is going on for the summer. There's a barbecue scene. There's something else. There's my little sister, because she has red hair, so it's the only color on the whole page is the red hair. And it's swoopy like this, and there's these giant hoop earrings. And she's on rollerblades. And there's a thought bubble over her head that says, gross! And there's an arrow pointing to my other sister, a stick figure with a cast on, and next to her is a stick figure with big lips trying to kiss her. There is another stick figure drawing of what I know is our friend Linda, because Linda has Marge Simpson hair. So it is a stick figure with hair like that, but she's standing in a circle of sunflowers. And all the sunflowers are smiling, but Linda is not smiling. Next to her is my mother, with her cat-eye glasses, her cigarette in her hand, and a deer chasing her. And on the opposite page, there is a stick figure of my dad. My dad has mutton chops. It's the only stick figure with mutton chops. And he has a tool belt on and a hammer in his hand. And the only drawing that has real detail on it is he has drawn this broken gate. We have this broken wooden gate at our house. And under that, it says, I'm trying to fix things. I could use your help. Your Pop. And I turn this around and I show the fishermen. And everybody laughs. And they're all pointing at things. And then it gets really quiet. And I realize that every one of them is thinking about their families, their loved ones who they don't get to see for the whole summer because this is what they do for a living. And from that second on, I was treated very differently. I was treated like a person who has a story, a person who comes from a community. And if you can tell your story to a stranger, you will be accepted. Thank you.
I want to ask something really fast.
Okay.
Is that a story about story?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay.
No, like, you could try to diagram that.
Yeah.
There's 10 callbacks. There's easily 10 seeds planted that bloom later. And none of that was on purpose. That all happened to me. I got those letters. I still have those letters. That thing happened to me. And when I started this, I fucking hate the word journey, but when I started this storytelling thing, there were scenes in my head that I remembered that I wanted to tell people. And sometimes you have a series of events in your life that just line up. And so the truth is that story, you've only heard like a quarter of the story because I wrote everybody back and then I got letters back. And so they got to hear the next set of letters. The girlfriend got pregnant. Not shitting you. Like that really happened. And when I got the letter from her, it said, by the time you've got this letter, I'll have had an abortion. And
Wow.
I went to the captain and we shipped ashore radio. There was no cell phones in the early 80s. We shipped ashore radio to Dutch Harbor. Somebody called on a phone and literally held the radio up to a phone, and she answered the phone, and she hadn't had the abortion yet. And I proposed and said, don't, like, no, this story is like, and I'll say this, there's also a little bit of Odysseus in there. If you chart it, there's a definite, like, for the full arc of the story. But it wasn't planned. Like, this happened to me in my life. And when I was looking at things that I wanted to talk about, the structure just appeared.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, it's the first story I ever told where you could point to a structure that was on purpose, and yet it wasn't on purpose, because that was the order everything happened, you know?
Wow.
I do feel like once you put that lens on a thing and you really look at it, you'll find that other events in your life have a structure too. And it's how you hatch it, how you create the narrative that you're going to say out loud. I mean, you know, a million things are cut out, but nothing was added. Like,
Right.
it all happened.
Wow. Well, okay, so first I think I want Keith to give you a bunch of compliments. Could we start there?
I mean, that's easy to do. It's the first story of yours I heard. And I gave it the greatest compliment I can give a story or a comedian. I told it to my wife over breakfast the next morning. But I really was moved by it. It's a great story. It's a moving story. It's an emotional story. But I actually did appreciate the structure, where I was like, he's telling the story of him on the boat, and then through these letters starts telling the story of his life and his community at home, and then ties the two together. It's incredible. And it's really interesting to me now to hear you say that it was kind of just hatched that way, that it was... when I get something like that, it almost feels like a gift from the universe. Like, thank you.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm going to sound like a conceited bastard. I know how good the story is. I know the first time I told the story, I got on BART after the place where I told the story, and people on BART had been at the show. It was at 16th Street BART station.
Oops, sorry.
And I got on the BART station, and I got a standing ovation on the BART car.
Oh, wow.
With both
love
of my
that.
boys there, which I got to tell you, as a parent,
Hell
you
yeah.
do not get that very many times in your life. You know,
Isn't it funny? If you were in a basketball game and you scored the most baskets, you would just know you scored the most baskets, and you wouldn't worry about sounding arrogant if you were like, you know, how'd it go? Oh, it was good. I scored the most baskets. But we worry about being arrogant when we go, yeah, this one kills. But it does. I mean, it does well for you. The audience responds to it. You know that it's a good story. I don't think it's arrogant at all. I think it's just you know. There are probably nights when you know that you shit the bed.
only once. No, really. I know exactly the time I bombed. I've only bombed one time.
And now I hate you.
But I'm not doing comedy. There's room for me to do, you know. I mean, that broke my personal rule, which is it has 3 tearjerker moments.
Yeah.
And my rule is to only have one. And I have that rule. I have one that you have the payoff. And I really, I do 2 in a row too that are hard, and that reading the letter from my mother is the comic relief. The joke isn't actually that funny, but the audience is so fucking tense. And when I say the next one is from my mother, you can feel the audience go, "Oh no."
So you are fucking around with the placement a little bit then.
I definitely think about the rhythm of how that works,
Right.
and I have told it in a different order. One time, and I liked the downward step because my friend Brian, who I love dearly, and by the way, I know him today. He's married, great husband. His husband's name is Brian. It's very funny. I call them Brian squared. But like that story actually isn't sad at the end. It's uplifting because everybody has got the same thing where they wish this thing was better.
Everyone came together before.
But there's something really beautiful to me if the audience is listening and they give you permission to go deeper. Sometimes they do not.
And how do you know?
I'm listening for an inhale. And if you turn up the sound on this, you can hear it. You can hear it. When you're on stage.
Can you tell me when?
Oh, well, when I say that, she doesn't know who she is anymore without her husband. I take a beat and 400 people going all at the same time because everybody's thinking of their person that they know who's in that same position. And that is also the unifying thing of something where I make it a very strong point to not describe many things, especially people, so that people can put their own cast from their life in those positions. I don't describe what I look like on purpose. Almost never do I describe what I look like in a story. First off, I'm standing in front of you. But was I skinny? Was I fat? Was I whatever? Always leave that out so that people can see the story through my voice.
Okay.
That's the goal anyways.
And I'm to give you compliments?
No, that's what I want.
Okay. All right. Well, Amy gets what Amy wants.
Amy's wearing the boss hat.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have a really strong sense of pacing, I think. I think that's probably like, of the 3, I've seen you tell 4 stories live. And you seem to have a very intuitive sense of pacing. Like you understand how the story should feel rhythmically, I guess, is the question. Which I guess would be a good question. Is that something that you feel like you innately understand? Or is it intellectual, or is it purely like a feeling thing, instinctual?
It is not totally instinctual. I definitely have some Irish relatives that seem to speak in almost verse, and there is a rhythm to the Irish way of speaking. My grandfather definitely had a fake brogue to him. He was born here. Like he never lived in Ireland his whole life, but he was raised by people that, grew up in Ireland. There is some rhythm to that and where I end up, and I have looked at it. But the truth is I count syllables, which is a very useful thing for people to do. I don't do it for everything, but I count syllables for lines that I want to deliver. And I think very hard about the rhythm of how I want to deliver them to make sure that I'm not emphasizing the wrong thing. And there might be, in that story, there's, I think, 7 lines that I have written out. I don't have anything else written out on that story. I do that from the top of my head every time I do it. And sometimes different details come in, but there are some lines that I really want to make sure I deliver in a certain way. I have stolen the syllabic rhythm from a Wallace Stevens poem, 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. If you ever read that poem and then you listen to my story again, you might find them.
Wow.
One person in an audience, I was telling a different story, and they said, "Did you send Wallace Stevens a check?"
Because you're making that fat storyteller money.
Well, yeah, there you go. Well, the Wallace Stevens line is, "It was snowing and it was going to snow." And I changed it to, "It was raining and it was going to rain." So like it was pretty obvious what I had done.
Yeah.
But I really,
And was that the impetus for the story that you're speaking of? That line?
so that story that I stole the Wallace Stevens line directly from, it was very much about discovering yourself in nature and trying to figure out who you are by testing yourself. And that poem's not really about that, but that line to me, like, it suggests you're going through some shit and it's not over. And so that was the image I wanted to project.
I see.
I do think the sound and the tone of your voice is also all they have to go on.
Totally.
And so, you know, if you can get people into your rhythm, then they get a sense of what is next, and you're telegraphing some things, like
Yeah.
here it's going to come, here it's going to come. Pay attention to that word. Okay, now pay attention to that word. Repeating it's the last line in the letter. Repeating that is a great thing to, like, go, here's the nut, here it comes, you know. Oh yeah, it's the same nut. Oh, it's the same nut. And I get to repeat that thing a couple of times. And that's really, man, I don't know how long that story is talking. That's a long time to ask people to remember a detail from the beginning.
Yeah.
So having the chance to repeat it a little bit and have the repetition be in a rhythm, because we remember rhythms and melody better than we do actual words.
So it's kind of centering them too. It's kind of stabilizing them.
Hopefully.
I mean, if it's
Hopefully.
working correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, this is Aaron. Thanks for listening to Prompt. But don't go anywhere. Because you're a paid subscriber, you get to hear the entire interview. Yay! We appreciate your support. We're just three friends who love stories, and we know you do too. And now, let's get back to the rest of the interview. Quick follow-up question. Where did you get the idea to count syllables as a storyteller? Where did you think to yourself, as I tell stories, I'm going to start counting syllables?
So in 4th grade, the nun at my Catholic school said we're going to learn a new type of Japanese poetry called haiku. And I was going to school in a town called Ukiah, which is the word haiku fucking spelled backwards. I shit you not. And we're looking at this, and a kid goes, well, that's just Ukiah spelled backwards. This isn't Japanese. This is some bullshit.
Why are you trying to put us on, nun?
But that counting of syllables, when you write something down, it definitely started right then and there. Like paying attention to that. And then, God, rhythm is so attractive. And it helps a lot with memorization. Because I don't word for word memorize stories, but I word for word memorize certain lines where I really want to make sure this bit of information gets across. So I tend to memorize them almost musically. And that way, when they come out, I can deliver them that way. I add back in likes and ums and stuff on purpose. The first time I do a story, they are non-existent. They aren't.
That's weird.
Really?
Oh,
That's
also,
so interesting to me.
it's very helpful sometimes for the audience to just get a break. And so I might pause for no reason, but I'm trying to reorganize my thoughts, and I think the audience needs it too.
They need the likes and the uhs and the...
They're conversational glue.
Totally.
And so there are times when I make sure they aren't in there at all. And I'm very, very careful with enunciation. But that's not how people talk.
Right.
And I hope
So you're kind of straddling a line.
that it comes across like we're just having a conversation. That's what I'm hoping.
But it is an elevated if it is a conversation, it's elevated
But that
because there's a performance involved. So, I mean, it's not a straight...
It is theater.
Right.
And I am embracing that it's theater.
Exactly.
I didn't used to embrace it as theater at all.
And what does that mean? What did you do?
I really tried to make it feel like a conversation. Like I really, in fact,
Can you give us an
sometimes
example?
I would pick a single person to tell the story to in the front row,
Oh, my goodness.
and they would get very uncomfortable, like very uncomfortable. After a show once, a woman came up to me and goes, "My friend is freaked out that you're like a stalker or
Yeah,
something."
the cruise story to
Yeah.
one person.
Oh yeah.
the cruise story for you listening at home is very sexy.
Do you know how many times you had told the story before the night at the Sofia?
I have told that story 4 times.
So that was the 5th time?
That was the 5th time. The first time I told it was at a show called Beyond Borders, which was all travel stories. It was started by some people that were all served in the Peace Corps, and so they like to hear stories about people going to different places and whatever. And I told it at a rich lady's birthday party for more money than I've ever been paid to tell a story. And it was a great show. Like this rich Marin lady.
And did the syllables change for the rich lady?
She got extra syllables.
Yeah. No, she heard it and paid me to come tell it.
Wow.
So she was
That's
at that
flattering.
first show.
Yeah.
She said, I want you to tell that story to my friends.
And where is that story in the timeline of you creating stories?
That was the first story I told longer than probably 12 minutes. And I had told a single part of it at a moth.
Which
just
part?
a story slam. The letter from the girlfriend.
Okay.
And I told that, and then the second letter that I sent her a letter, and I basically went, this is what I wrote back to her. And it didn't work by itself,
Yeah.
but I knew the grand thing would work. And also, God, it's great to have a thing where you can actually go, oh, well, I was putting this idea in your head that I was going to hatch and whatever, but to not actually create that it just existed in the world. But it's a good habit to like find a thing. If there's a story that you like that does that, learn it, do it, because imitation is how we learn. So copy it, and then do your own.
Are you saying a story that leaves stuff unsaid? Is that what you're saying? Or did I miss?
I love those.
I know.
Those are my absolute
Yeah,
favorites.
uh-huh.
Like
And
absolute
I'm waiting.
favorite, like absolutely beyond. I think more what I mean is that you have something that you don't have to create the structure, but you're trying to learn how to create structure.
I see.
So find a thing that already has a scaffold in it, and take the nouns out and put your own nouns in.
Yeah.
Put your own verbs in, but leave the structure in place.
Yeah.
And make some shit up too. Like you're not trying to tell the truth. You're just trying to learn the process.
Right.
There's a couple of moth stories that I've loved over the years where I have definitely gone, oh, that guy talked about the most boring job in the world, but the structure worked.
Yeah.
And I hate structure, and also
You hate structure?
Man, the best experience for me is the very first time I riff something where I have no structure in mind, and there might be one that I don't see, or I might later through editing go, oh my God, you have to push it into this form because that's going to reach the most people. But as a storyteller, the very first time I do it, where I'm just standing in front of a microphone talking,
Yeah.
oh, it's electric sugar. It is just fucking, it's cotton candy. It's,
So you're getting high from it.
oh my God, yes.
And does it feel risky?
It used to feel very risky, and now it feels like discovery. And
You've
how
got more
I
confidence now because you've done it so many times.
there's a few things I know, like I don't feel like an idiot standing there. Like I'm just like, oh, people will listen to you. Yeah, and it probably takes doing it 10 times before you realize, oh, they're your prisoner. They're sitting in an audience. They can't go anywhere. You get to talk. And, even if you're terrible, where are they going to go? Are they going to get up and walk out? Because then they're the center of attention, and nobody wants to be the center of attention. I know in comedy shows they get up and walk out.
Not mine.
There you go.
Why did you look at me when you said that? I can't help but wonder if you were ever in a position where you were like on tour, if you would fall in love with that later part of the storytelling. Because my experience is the first time I tell it, I get that same high you get. I love it. But then when I have to repeat it 20 times because I'm in a new city every night, after the 5th or 6th time, I start falling in love with tweaking it, making little changes, moving things around. That process, but it wasn't until I was repeating jokes or stories so many times that I really fell in love with that process and saw the creativity of that process compared to just write, perform, write, perform, write, perform. The rewriting, the editing. It's beautiful.
I hope that I can get to that place.
Well,
where
let's put you on tour.
Sure, okay.
All right, we leave tomorrow.
Yeah, I do think about that quite a bit, and I do think about what is the next level of this thing. Is there a next level? Is this just it? Is this all there is? This might be all there is. And
Are you bored?
I'm bored with the moth.
Okay.
And I love it. It's where I started, but that it has a form, and that 5-minute form, the Grand Slam that I was in, last week, I had to really chisel something down to fit it in there, and I made it very good.
Yeah.
It was intense. It did exactly what I wanted it to do, and it was very risky. I talked about trans rights and gay rights, and it was actually about my friend Brian, who's in that story. It's the precursor to that. He and I looking at porn when we're kids, and I realized, like, because of he reaches out to touch me, he's gay and I'm not, and
Yeah.
and I talked about something serious, and I did it in 5 minutes. But that story in 20 minutes is fucking powerful.
I
Yeah.
bet.
And the 5-minute one is the scene, is here's the kernel,
Yeah.
and I can't really go into how, like, what it means in the end. And although some things are great 5 minutes, and so I am trying to embrace the nature of show business, the nature of theater. I don't come from that. I'm a woodworker. I'm a guy who just, this isn't what I do.
I guess you don't really edit wood very much. I mean, you can
Or that's all you
That's
do.
all I do. Yeah.
just non-stop. Yeah.
It starts out as a tree. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a finite, there's a
Yeah.
finite
So
ending.
with
Measure one,
Yeah.
well, measure twice, cut once.
I'm making a dining room table right now
Yeah.
that I'm trying to have tell a story for sure. And
What does that mean? Oh wait, I think I kind of know because I heard one of your stories about like table legs.
It just, like it's a George Nakashima inspired thing this woman likes, but no one will know it's George Nakashima. He had a lot of natural edges and things, and I've removed all those, but brought back some of the parts. And I have a concept, and that is heavy editing on paper, but then when I'm actually making it, it's a riff.
That seems very similar to how you deal with stories. I mean,
Yeah, I get paid for one way better.
that's true.
Well, that's actually one of my questions that I in advance wanted to ask you. I'm very interested in, I'm a stand-up comedian, Amy's a writer, Aaron's a journalist, and we're coming into storytelling. And you are a woodworker. And I want to know about the confidence and anything else relevant that is affected by that experience of having an art form that you're already successful at, both artistically and even financially and like out in the world.
It is very helpful to have put things out in the world that everybody else gets to judge, to already have that experience under the belt. If people don't like my stuff, I don't get paid. When I'm making furniture, when I'm making art, when I'm making, and that experience is so automatic. Did you get paid or not? And I have had shows where I'm standing next to the work I created, but everybody walking around doesn't know I'm the guy that made it. And you get to hear the absolute most honest thing. The legs are fat, whatever it is they're going to say. Or they're like, holy shit, I love that. And you hear, and oh man, 14-year-old girls are the worst critic in the world. They would just, but if they take a selfie with your thing in it, you're like, oh, I won. I totally won. So I do have that experience of doing a creative thing, putting it out in the world, and then getting judged. But I work alone in a shop, making things all day. And that public experience has nothing to do with the making. It's already done.
It's done. Right.
Whereas the on-stage thing, it's not done. It's not even done when you're done telling the story. If you did it
Interesting.
right, somebody comes up to you at a podcast and says, the highest compliment I can give you is that I retold your story to my wife. And it's still not done because we're talking about this story now. And I know this thing is still morphing in me. And the final version that I tell of this story, it may be very different. Like, I also understand that they're not on paper. They're in the ether.
So maybe they don't have a final.
I feel like they don't. And I feel like my perspective on the event that I'm talking about is always changing.
Yeah.
If your view of your own life doesn't change,
Yeah.
give up.
Or reading a book, when you're 10, 20, 30,
Oh my
40.
God, yeah. I fucking hated The Great Gatsby for so long. So I got to reread it, man. And
I love doing that.
Yeah, and I reread it and went, I still don't really like it. But I love As I Lay Dying, which I think is the greatest comedy. The rotting body they're carrying around. I don't know, there's something, I do think about that, though, that creative thing. I love when somebody is not a creative person at all, and they try this. When they have done nothing where everybody's creative, but they haven't put themselves out in ever. There are stories that I haven't told that I'm not ready to tell because they're so personal, and I'll be crushed if they don't go over. And mostly I'm waiting for a few different people to die.
Wow.
Because it's their approval that I still feel like every story I tell, I'm trying to get my mom's approval. I still feel that way. My mom's died in 2002, and I still feel like walking off stage. Did that one work, Mom? That's still in my head.
Wow.
But I do. I think that. Amy, you got on stage and did this thing.
Yeah.
And you were worked up.
What do you mean I was worked
You
up?
were nervous. You were worried. You had all the nerves. You had all the stuff going on. And I love watching that. It is
'Cause you're mean.
Yeah. That's part of it. But I, even as many stories as I've told, I still have some of that. That's still there. If I don't have it, I won't do it ever again, because that's part of the payoff, is this struggle that we put ourselves through to create our identity, to figure out who we are in this thing. And then you're going to express this serious thing in front of people. And, there is something in the fishing boat story. I don't change.
What do you mean?
I don't change.
What
The
is
main character, me, the person, I don't change.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else
It's not that kind of story.
Yeah.
And you end it you don't end it in an expected way. I think everybody feels like it's expected, like everybody feels satisfied at the end, but you don't actually really end the story.
No.
Yeah.
The boat is
That's
still
one of my
sailing.
questions. Yeah.
Everything's still going.
Right.
This is a snapshot.
Because that's a moment where you all came together and then you...
Yeah.
And that's what you were capturing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this is a good segue, and you've touched on this already, but I want to ask you, because this is really interesting to me with storytellers, about your relationship with the truth. And deeper than people going, did that really happen? If I went and talked to other people that are in your stories, how much would they disagree with your version of it? And follow-up question, how much do you care?
This is a hard answer because some people are very connected to the truth being data. And data is not truth. Data does not tell a story. There's no narrative in data. Narrative is separate from data and separate from truth. All of your memories are a lie. Everything that you remember is a lying opera. That's how it really is. Somebody may be more factually correct connected to the data and their account of something, but the second you start describing what the color of something was or what happened or what the mood was or whatever, you are telling your fiction of that truth.
Right.
Now, to get to the truth, it is impossible to tell the truth. That is clearly human. It is human to the 100%. There is no truth told. Think of all the big truths that are told to us that come in narrative form. and that narrative form is lying constantly. Now, do I invent a fact to help a story along? Not that way.
Okay.
I will change a detail that gets to the truth faster so that I don't have to spend more time explaining something. I will use a shorthand. There are some things that so I made out with a girl who reached into her mouth and took her retainer out and held it in her hand while we made out. That happened to me. I have used that in 4 different stories because it tells you who that girl is, and I needed you to know who that girl is in 10 seconds because we've only got 5 minutes, or we've only got... If I spend time describing her, you'll see less of her. So I need a detail you can hang your hat on, because the one thing with oral storytelling, very different than written, is the more I describe it, the less you see it. If I describe her exactly what she looks like, you see her less and less and less and less. And the truth becomes even weirder and harder for you to see because everybody doing listening is trying to put their cast of characters in your story. Right. Do they know the girl that took her retainer out and would have made out with a guy holding a retainer? They do. They know that girl. And it's this girl, Sherry, their friend Sherry, or their arch enemy Sherry, or whatever. So the truth for me, sometimes I've got to use a lie to get you to what I want to talk about faster. It's more about economy. Now, the bigger truth, the bigger thing that's going to happen, I don't make that up. I don't change anything to get to that detail. I change names. I do it, and sometimes I fuck up in the middle and forget the made-up name, and then I'm like, oh no! So like that's a thing, and
that's a lovely thing in written. You can do search and replace.
Yeah, and when you're live, if you mix a name up, you will see it in the audience. They'll be like, who's Timmy?
I've done it. I've absolutely done it.
So there's a storyteller who I love, Abdul Kenyatta, and I told this story, and it was put online, and my older son's mother, my ex, commented a comment, and he went after her because her comment was a little negative. And she pulled her comment down, and the thing that Abdul and I talked about is he's like, yeah, anybody that knows the story you're talking about, that was part of it, that was in that world, you should kill them rather than let them come to see it. Like, so you have freedom to just be you, But I do think I've walked off stage and had an audience Googling things.
Oh,
Wow.
To check details and heard people go, oh, shit, that's true. Oh, that did really happen. Oh, my God, that's
That's always my fear, that I'll reference a song or a TV show, and someone's like, you said this happened in 1990, but that TV show didn't come out until 1991.
Oh, yeah. I used to climb the Golden Gate Bridge, like to the top, up the cables.
Right.
I did it a lot in the 80s. And after September 11th, you can't do it anymore. They got guards everywhere and whatever. But I told a story about that at the Moth in Berkeley, and people were Googling.
Oh, wow.
Could you really do that? Could you really? While I'm telling the story, which I was like, oh, that was a little, all right, but.
So what are they there for then? I mean, it sounds like they are there for data.
Yeah.
That's kind of strange.
We live in a complicated world where people think data tells the truth.
Yeah.
And yet we use data to prove somebody's wrong, but then it doesn't tell a different story. I do think there's some great storytelling rules, like paying attention to the number of times you reference a thing. Don't have 10 examples, use 2 or 3, whatever. There's all these things. So you have to cut people out. You have to cut things out, and that's a lie. Every time you edit, you're lying.
Right.
Editing straight up is just a lie, always. There's
but
no
the lie
edit.
gets you to the truth. So
the lie gets you and advances the story.
And there's not really a truth. It's more truthy.
Yeah.
Truth. You can get truthy.
I have twin cousins that were in a story that I told on KQED. And they said, we got to cut 1.5 minutes out of this. And the guy goes, you could cut one of the cousins out. And I was like, dude, they're twins. Like, that's okay. And I had to call my cousin Kevin and tell him, you're not in the story that's on the radio tomorrow, just your brother is. And he was like, why is Dennis in? And I went, because I had a lot of K words, and I was trying to stay away from too many K words. So you got cut. Yeah, I do actually, I treasure that conversation.
You described your dad as a man with few useful words.
Oh, the nugget. The nut line. You repeated it.
Such a good line.
I get $25. It gets mailed to me when you do that. Sorry. That just came out of my head when live on stage.
That time or?
That time. And when it came out of my head, I went, oh, that's gold.
So that was the first time you'd said that?
Yes.
Was here at the Sofia?
No. That came out the very first time I told the story.
Oh, okay.
That line did come out. And
well, what does it mean? What are you talking about?
The only advice I was getting from him was unsolicited and counterproductive. We had a complicated relationship. My dad I loved my father. He was occasionally violent, only with me, never with anybody else. I became a focal point for him to release things. Some of the stuff he said to me, I have 2 children. I cannot imagine saying that to them. I can't, and I realize we live in a different time period, and I'm looking at him through a different lens, and I can give somebody some slack. But at that point in my life, he was not somebody to be trusted. And I wasn't giving him a break either, like at all.
Right.
And he, accepting the duality of human beings is really tough to do when you're a kid. As you get to be an adult, the nuance of life, and you start to go, all right, well, that sucks about them, but these other parts are good, and I'm going to accept this, right? But when you're a kid, when you're growing up, that's too hard to ask. And I was being asked to be the adult in a lot of situations. And I know my older sister will be like, that's not true. And my younger sister will be like, times 10, because of the different view of what it's like.
Yeah.
So that I wanted to describe my father without saying he was violent, without saying anything negative other than that, was to just have a very succinct thing saying we weren't communicating.
But it's a vicious enough way to say it that I'm not 100% surprised to hear that there was a very tough relationship behind that. Because that's not like a kind, affectionate way. It's kind of.
And hopefully the redemption that he gets at the end shows that we're not one thing. We're all different things.
And was he an artist?
I think he probably should have been.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Because he spoke in pictures to you.
Yes. My dad painted for about 8 years and put his paintings in the Mendocino County Fair every year and got honorable mention after honorable mention. And then finally he won one, and he stopped painting the second he won, which is
interesting.
A freak show, right? We're like, I won first place at the fair. I'm done painting.
Interesting.
Why take a chance of stepping down again the next year and getting an honorable mention?
I always think that's the best time to quit things.
Right.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Step out on
That's
top.
when you move. You move forward.
His sense of the visual part too, definitely when he would describe a thing, I realize now, like, if he'd have gone in that direction, he probably would have been a more fulfilled person.
Right.
Maybe not though. Hitler used to paint.
Yeah.
All right. That seems like a good note to end on. Thank you, JP.
All right.
Thank you, JP.